All right, so why don't we start? It's right at the hour, it's 12 o'clock, and we do want to be respectful of everyone's time. Good afternoon, officially. My name is Dr. Erlene Avalon, and I am a teaching professor here within the College of Professional Studies. I am also the director of the Lowell Institute School. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to attend this session. I just want to thank Dr. Patty Goodman for organizing and facilitating today's session, and many thanks to Mary McCarthy and Natalie Bowers for all of their support for bringing these sessions all together. The Lowell Institute is at Northeastern University College of Professional Studies. We have more than 50 years of experience aligning higher education with professional aspirations. LIS, as we like to call the Lowell Institute for short, provides students with scholarships and opportunities to increase their engagement while continuing their education. We really focus on STEM programs within the Lowell Institute School, and I'm just going to kind of line list all the programs that we work with so you can have a really strong understanding of how vast our work is. So LIS encompasses the analytics program, biological science, biotechnology, digital communications and media, my apologies, healthcare administration, health science, information technology, mechatronics, our post-bac pre-medical program, our project management, and our psychology program. So you can see we really have a diverse array of academic programs that fall underneath the LIS umbrella. We really hope that you enjoy today's Mentorship Matters session on digital communications and media. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Patty Goodman Hayward.
Thank you so much, Arlene. It's so great to see you and to have two of my previous students. Well, I shouldn't say previous because Carolyn, you're going to be finishing. So I'll share more in just a moment. So I am the program lead for the undergraduate digital communications and media. And we've been really excited over this past year doing a lot of work to bring in AI into our program and make some curricular changes as we're looking for future needs. This conversation about mentorship, it comes in at a beautiful time, especially as some think of AI as being a side mentor. And I'm guessing by the end of this conversation, you're going to say, it's great to have a human mentor so that you have somebody to really ask questions and hear the humanity side and the emotions. I'm excited to have these two individuals with us. Armaya has been in our graduate program in corporate and organizational communications, and she now has her own social media business, and I'll let her explain more about that in a moment. And Carolyn Peabody is in our undergraduate digital communications and media, and she comes from a wealth of experience and backgrounds, and I'm excited for her to share also. Before I kick off questions with both of them, I just want to give a little bit of a highlight from my own experience in having a mentor and just sharing that sometimes a mentor can come in unexpected ways and in a unique situation. I was in a education program in Arizona and not really sure what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to teach elementary school. And after taking one class, I was kind of questioning if this was going to be something I was interested in. And I happened to be talking to this older gentleman who I was questioning why he was in the class. He was probably in his 60s and he had a lot of knowledge and information from the business world, but not in teaching. So I was very curious why he was in this class. And as I started asking him questions, I noticed how quickly he started asking me very reflective questions that made me rethink why I was doing what I was doing. And he actually led me into a position teaching at a medium maximum men's prison on the border of Arizona and Mexico. And it was one of the most enriching experiences that I've had that kind of propelled my career in a new way and got me interested really in cross-cultural communications on a whole nother level. So in saying that, I'd love to start, Carolyn, with you, if you don't mind. Why why are you currently seeking your undergraduate degree? If you could share just a little bit about yourself too, that would be great.
Oh, sure. So in seeking, I will touch a little bit on my background, but I'll just answer that question first. So I did work in before attending Northeastern, I was working in marketing communications for about 30 years. 15 of those years I spent at United Technologies, which is now Raytheon Technologies. They merged, United Technologies merged with Raytheon. But anyway, after 15 years, I was one of the people. There was a massive layoff after the merger went through, and so when I was laid off, I considered pursuing my degree at that point, because when I started my career back in the 90s, you didn't need a bachelor's degree to start a professional career. You could meet somebody and you could interview in person. All of that stuff was in person at that time. And, with an associate's degree, which is what I had, if they liked you, they might give you a shot. So that's what happened to me. So I got my associate's degree in 93 and started my career immediately. I was working for Rounder Records, which at the time was a really small independent label in Cambridge, Massachusetts. They're in Somerville now. They have grown exponentially. I think their biggest star is probably, why can't I think of her name right now? Because I just saw her. But anyway, she plays the fiddle, and she's been touring with Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin. But I can't think of her name right now, which is so funny. Oh, Alison Krauss. I'm sorry. But anyway, I just couldn't think of her name. Like, why can't I think of Alison's name? But anyway, so I started there way back when, and the interesting thing about it is I started in 93, the internet launched in 94, and they were very proactive, and I became their first webmaster. But I was just like assigned it. At that time, my position was desktop publishing. I did desktop publishing, and I was part of an IT department. It was I wanted to be because nobody knew what that was. And my boss, who was a man, he just was like, Carolyn, you're going to be our first webmaster. So I took HTML classes like right away, and I was off and running in the digital world like right at the beginning of the internet and digital communications. But anyhow, back to why I'm here now, is my career went on from there. I ended up at United Technologies in 2005, was laid off in 2020, and thought about pursuing a degree at that point, but I got hired by Militport. And while I was thinking about it and studying, researching schools, I got offered a position at Militport Sigma, Mark. And so it was a whole new field. I was working in fire protection before that. So I decided to put off the degree at that point and learn as much as I could about human blood cells, collection, separation, storage, because that's what I was going to be working in. I worked there for about a year and a half, and the product that I was working on, I was hired to support, had they decided not to continue with the product because the R&D department discovered a fatal flaw in the product. So I got laid off again after a year and a half, and at that point, I decided I was going to go back to school. So here I am.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your sharing your background too, Carolyn. And Armaya, would you share some about your background and why you decided, because I know you have a really cool story on getting your graduate degree?
Thank you very much, Professor Goodman. My name is Armaya Dormi. I'm the founder of Ayamra Media LLC. It's a social media marketing agency based in Boston. And I also a founder of Studywitharmaya. Before I talked about why I chose my graduate degree, I wanted to explain about Studywitharmaya first. So basically before, like 3 months before I graduated from Northeastern University, I always wanted to share my story to Indonesian people. And the problem of the Indonesian peoples are we don't really want to speak English. We are shy, and then we are discouraged of speaking English. So like I wanted to encourage all of Indonesian people, students, who want to go to America, and I provided them like free webinar. So my webinar is about like how to prepare themselves to apply for graduate degree in America. So I give them tips. I give them like, you know, um, advise how to apply and to graduate degree in America. And also I have this webinar called Speaking with Native Speakers. So I invited all of my friends from Northeastern to be a guest speaker so that Indonesian people can speak with native speakers at a time. So it's been 3-4 years right now. So the webinar is from weekend only, Saturday, Sunday. I started from free webinar and then until I have this paid webinar because I believe that product is really, really good. And after graduated, I did my OPT at TikTok in LA, but I was working in Boston at that time due to the COVID. I was a user experience at that time. And after that, I worked for a pasta company for 2.5 years. For my first O1B visa. So I was one of the students who got O1B visa. It's an extraordinary ability visa that the government gave for extraordinary people only in America. And I was working there as a social media manager while I was doing my 9 to 5 at Lily's Press Pasta Company at that time. I was doing a side project as a social media manager for restaurants at the time. So I was working 9 to 5. And after that, I worked 6 p.m. to I think like midnight every single day just to hustle and then to explore my passion in social media. And after that, in February, the company moved to New Hampshire. They wanted me to live in New Hampshire, and I wasn't ready to leave Boston. So I decided to open my social media marketing agency called Ayamra Media. I am so grateful right now. From zero, I had for about like 7 clients, retainer. Most of them are restaurants in Boston, and also like I have clients in healthcare industry, nonprofit organization, sometimes like personal brand as well in Boston. It's very, very new, but it's a very good product because I've learned a lot while I was in graduate school. The reason why I chose Northeastern and then applied at that time for my graduate school because I love communication, and I wanted to explore more. How it feel how it felt to study abroad. And I got scholarship from my government in Indonesia. They sent me. I wasn't planning to go to America. So basically, I was sent by my government to go to Boston to get master's degree. It was 6 years ago, and I couldn't speak English at that time. So when they asked me to go to Boston, and I chose Northeastern because they had a very great communication program at that time. When I applied, I couldn't speak English, so at that time I was about to learn English from beginner level, and then um, I got my TOEFL at that time after 6 time failed when I applied for Northeastern at that time. I did my pathway program at Northeastern. It was 2 semesters, 8 months. So basically, I was learning how to speak English in a graduate school level. I was learning how to write in graduate school, how to read in graduate school. So basically, I did everything I could. While at Northeastern, I did a lot of like tutorial class. So basically, all the benefits that I got from Northeastern, I attended all of them until I became a commencement speaker at Northeastern University at that time. I was the first Indonesian student at that time who gave a speech at Northeastern University. And also, I was a top recognition of the year 2021 because of my portfolio. E-portfolio got one of the best at that time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You both have so much to share and really being able to share very different perspectives too. So I really appreciate your both being here. Well, before we get into mentorship in particular, I'd love to hear a little bit more about as you were going to school. And Armaya, I know you just mentioned quite a bit in learning the language, but Carolyn, as you were going to school, knowing that you'd done some work and now you're coming into the school environment after quite a long time between the associates, not to give any, background, but just from work
Right.
experience in between. What did you find was the greatest challenge in kind of being in this learning school environment?
That's funny because, talking to people my age and people that I worked with a long time, because I still have a lot of friends back at United Technology and we still see each other quite regularly. So I think it was last summer, I was with a few friends and I had let them know that I was, attending school full time at Northeastern, and one of the guys right away was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you went back to school after all these years." He's like, I have nightmares about that. So I would say, being and the other funny thing is so my first semester at Northeastern, I went on one of the Husky tracks, and I was with the whole group, like we were congregating, getting ready to start the tour of the company that we were visiting, and one of the students was like, "Oh, are you one of the professors?" And I was like, "No, I'm actually a fellow student." So I think for some people there might be that barrier, just that barrier of age, and being like, I did this, and these are comments that I've gotten from people my age speaking to me when I talk about this experience, is that a lot of them will talk about how hard it was to do the first time when they were in their 20s. Like, college is so hard. I can't believe that you would that you're doing this at this age, and so I think, it's not really something I thought about because I had always wanted to finish
Your degree?
my bachelor's. It was planned, but as I said, I got that job, and that's kind of part of one of my mentor stories. But I continue and finish my bachelor's immediately. That really wasn't my plan to go right to work, but I got a great job, and my career just kind of took off. Like I said, I got lucky in that, with the whole internet, and that I took on that role, and I was really I've always been somebody who's been interested in learning. So I love learning new skills, and I'm never afraid to try something new. So it was the same thing here, like jumping back into the school. I was never like, as like I said, I started my career when the internet started. So all along the way, I was learning every new thing as they were happening in real time. And some things that I learned just failed and never became a thing, and faded. So certain trends took off, certain trends didn't. But all along the way, I was learning. So I would have to say, you know, it really wasn't, and probably if I had stopped to think about that, that might have held me back, thinking like, my son is older than a lot of my classmates, so I'd have to say that, like when I talk to some of my classmates in my group, and like we're talking, and like sometimes on camera I don't look as old as I am, so I'll be like, I'm old enough to be your mom, and probably my son is older than you are, and they'll be like, "Well, how old is your son?" And then I tell them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he is. He's like 10 years older." Like, that's what I said.
That's hilarious. So
Yeah.
you have to prevent yourself from getting in mom mode.
Um, you know, it's funny because, and sometimes it's helpful. Like you said, like, so this is a mentor, and sometimes it's been helpful. Like I have a great story about a group that I'm in right now, in regard to mentorship, and like all around the whole experience has been, and like you said, mentors can come in in unusual, from unique situations and unusual situations. And, a lot of these students, like what I like to say about the digital platform, at first I thought I was really not going to like it. I thought, because especially after COVID, I did have this yearning to get back, back out in social settings. But one of the things that I like best about the digital platform and the online learning is, and whenever I introduce myself, I always close with this line. Now, I didn't when I started, but I always say I look forward to learning with and from all of you, because in the digital platforms and in the discussion forums, you're not just discussing and learning you're not just absorbing the perspective of just the professor. You are reading, all of your classmates' thoughts, and some of us come from such different backgrounds, and there's a lot to learn from other people's perspectives of the same topic. And I really have enjoyed that.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Carolyn. And Armaya, from your perspective, and I know you had, just as you were mentioning a moment ago, you put in a lot of energy, and both of you share a lot about your passion and desire for learning and curiosity. But what was another challenge that maybe you faced, and how did you kind of work your way through that in school? Oh, you're on mute.
Okay. Thank you, Professor. I think one of the biggest challenges was the language barrier, to be honest. Just imagine you couldn't speak English and then you had to be in a graduate school. And, I couldn't even imagine like how hard it was. But, I think I managed it very, very well. I sacrificed my life in Boston. I didn't go out partying. Instead, I was just like reading books, and then I was studying. I studied the materials, and I read the instruction for the assignments, something like that. And then the second challenge, I think, the culture. It's really the culture from Indonesian culture and American culture are really, really different, especially when you are in a diverse community. You feel like you just want to adapt in every situation in the class with professors. It was not really hard, but it wasn't really easy as well. And also, the way American education teaching is like a lot of debate, whereas in Indonesia, a lot of like everything is just like a lecture, and then that's it, and then they give you homework and then go home, and then at the end of the month you have this exam, and then you have to just remember everything. But in Northeastern University, like a lot of discussions in the class, a lot of like peer discussions, a lot of like lectures, Q&A in the class, a lot of presentations. So those are not only the challenge, but also the good experience that I had at Northeastern University, because once you have this discussion with students from different countries, from India, from America, from China, you actually learn from them, and then it open your perspective. So I think, if I want to list like all the challenges, it's gonna be so long. But I think, I think those challenges, I want to put it as an experience, good experience that brought me to who I am today. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you both are managing your challenges very well. So in process of that, oftentimes managing challenges is recognizing when to reach out for support and when to lean on others. And
Correct.
who kind of guided you and supported you through that process? Amaya, we'll start with you and then we'll come to Carolyn.
I think so what I did was really increase my curiosity. When I talk to people, ask how how they manage their study, especially for example, like American students. I ask how they manage their time and then talk to other students, or they have like, oh, we have these resources, and then always listen to what professor said, when they said like, oh, you can come to my office hours, for example, and like really like looking information to the website. So basically no one will help you when you're a graduate school because everyone is busy with their time and everyone is like really focusing on their time. So basically it was my initiative to seeking sources, talking to professors, and ask questions with your friends, and then just like being able to look for information around the campus. Sometimes there is information on the toilet with just like a like a paper, like
Yeah.
this is the ITC visit us, etc., etc. And then there is an event, so you go to the event and then you meet new people, and then you expand your network, and then you talk to people and you get new resources. And then if there is an exhibition that's in school, and then you've collected all the flyers and then you attend it again. You go to career center for help, you go to ITC center. So basically the career city, I was just like using my career city, my initiative to go through that. And especially I had a very, very good and great professors at Northeastern University, and they were very, very, very helpful.
Thank you. Well,
Thank
and
you.
thank you for becoming a mentor, because that's what you've stepped into this role, pulling all this information and network, and now you're offering it to others to support them. So really appreciate how you're
Thank you.
paying it forward. Yeah. And Carolyn, what about you? Who helped to guide you through this process? Oh, you're on mute.
Myself.
There you go.
I muted myself. But anyway, I have to agree with what I'm sorry, I don't want to mangle her name. Is it Armaya?
Armaya, yeah.
Oh, okay, great. But I want to agree with a lot of what Armaya said. I think at this level, it's funny because I think a lot of the initiative does have to come from you. You have to be resourceful, and you have to kind of really seek it out. Though the one point that I got from what she had said, and I want to completely agree, is everyone at Northeastern, no matter what the issue is, you can find somebody who will be able to help you, and stuff gets resolved pretty quickly. Like the team there is just really responsive, no matter what it, like if it's financial services, like the registrar's office, in your classes with your professors, it regardless you are experiencing some sort of issue, you can find somebody at Northeastern that will help you out. And it's funny because even when I was researching schools, one of my criteria was I wanted to have the vast majority of my associate's degree, the credits to be transferred over and to be accepted into the program, because I wanted to get through the program as quickly as I could.
Sure.
And I don't even remember who I was working with, and I was trying to dig through old emails to find out who I was working with when I first applied, and was actually even before I applied, when I was just had those questions and I was reaching out to different schools and trying to figure out if they had online programs and looking at the programs, and I had but all those questions were resolved so quickly with Northeastern. And whatever the person who I first spoke to, like I found that I was told, yeah, we'll accept, and it's true, like we'll accept all your credits, as many of your credits as we can, and that is what happened. Like virtually all my credits were accepted. So again, I've just found everybody at Northeastern to be proactive and responsive and helpful. So whatever issue I had, I mean, I would have to agree with her in that I have to take that initiative to seek out the right person for the problem. But once you land up, but the thing is actually you don't even have to find the right person. You just have to reach out for the help, and the help's there.
And I'm so glad to hear that you've had a really good experience. That's awesome. And as you're thinking back, and I'm guessing that maybe when you first started on the internet, did you have someone that was kind of what we might call a mentor or supporting, and what characteristics did that person have? How did they help you to move forward with what they were wanting you to do or your objective?
Yeah, I mean, I was truly blessed, like all along the way. Like I said, right from the start at Rounder Records, um, I didn't really know HTML. I didn't really know that much about coding. I mean, I worked in an IT department, so all the guys were really supportive, but right away they encouraged me to take an, my manager encouraged me to take an HTML class. Um, he spoke to, it was a really small company then, so he went and had direct contact with management and was like, can we get her in an HTML class? You know, basically saying that the guys who were doing the coding were kind of too busy and we really want her to get, you know, to take on this role. We're not really sure what this role is going to, the workload's going to be, or what it's going to involve, to, you know, what's going to be involved. So can we get her to take this on, and we'll kind of share the responsibility. And they did right away. So right away I was enrolled in an HTML class. And then, as I said, like even at, for, you know, let's just jump years later. All along the way, I learned Adobe, the entire Creative Cloud suite. What is that? What right now is Creative Cloud. Back then it was Creative Suite. But when I got to United Technologies, the thing that was kind of just percolating at the top was SEO. And I took my first SEO class in 2006. I started there in 2005. I took it. The other thing, again, social, like web writing for the web was different. And like my manager there recognized that immediately. I was enrolled in a class to writing for the internet, you know, because you want to be more concise, bullet points, all that stuff. I took that, my first class in writing for the internet, and my first SEO classes were in 2006. So always I had great managers and leaders who, you know, were always on the cusp of what, you know, being active and being like, we want you to take this on, you know. And the thing was, is like, eventually they realized like I was that person no matter what. Like, do you want to go take this class? It's like, yeah, I'm going to take that class. I do want to take that class. I want to learn it, whatever it is. I need to know, you know, whatever's going on. So like I said, I've been fortunate. Uh, I'm glad that I had that kind of, my own personality is that way, and my curiosity to just always learning new skills and not being afraid to, like, a lot of it, I think some people, they just need, you know, it's sometimes it's just, don't be afraid, just try. The worst thing that can happen is you're just not going to be able to do it. That is the worst thing that can possibly happen. And, you know, if you try, you'll never know unless you try. So, you know, my advice to anybody is to just try, to take that step. I'm really impressed with Armaya. It's like, she's a very impressive person. So, you know,
So I'm also like impressed. You're so impressive as well. Like your classes that you took, it's they are the lessons that I've been learning. You know, I had the book for SEO because, you know, for as a social media marketing agency owner, you need to, you know all of these stuffs. You know, I don't study HTML because we have our web designer,
right.
but all the SEO stuff like writing for the internet is really, really important. And then I'm so, so proud of you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you have
Same,
to really
likewise.
stay on top of it. Yeah, no,
You
you
do.
Yeah,
both
You
are.
do.
Yeah,
You
you
do.
both are amazing. I
yeah,
really,
yeah.
and I appreciate how you said that just try it. And if, you know, if it doesn't work out, do something else. And it made me think about, I always had this mindset that if I try it, I can do it. You know, I grew up in an environment where I was always told, you know, if you're asking questions about it, go figure it out. If you're curious about it, go try it. And so in undergraduate, I thought, I'm going to do physical therapy. That's what I want to do. I want to help people, and I don't want to deal with blood, but I want to help people to, you know, be able to get back to where they were. And so I started taking all these classes dealing with biology and chemistry and anatomy. And in the first term, the test came back and I was not doing well. I literally got a D on one of my anatomy classes. I'm like, how can it be that hard? You're just memorizing where things are on the body. It was so hard. That was the first time I realized maybe that's not my thing. Maybe there are things that come easy to me and I exceed in, and there are things that maybe just are not my thing and I need to kind of shift from. And so it was a great experience, even though a tough one, because I did a lot of work to get
Yeah.
back from that. But the next term, I changed my degree, uh, and it was really helpful to kind of get a sense of testing things out and recognizing it doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It doesn't mean I'm an idiot. You know, all these bad words that we can sometimes tell ourselves, that critic. And it is helpful to have positive people that come into your life, and they might not be there very long. You know, you might have a mentor for a moment, but that's very helpful too to get you back on track. Yes, Erlene, please.
Great. I love this discussion. I do have two questions, and I'm not sure, Patty, if you want me to save them to the end or if I should ask the questions now.
No, feel free. Go ahead.
Okay. Carolyn, I love your passion for lifelong learning. Your advice about just giving it a try is so important. It's something that I usually live by and try to instill in my own children. So what additional advice would you give to students who might be facing various challenges, but who want to go back to school to pursue their dreams, either for them academic
Right.
or reasons or for professional reasons, while they're either working full time, raising a family, or going back to school a bit late in life? When I went back to school, I kind of fit into all three of those categories. I went back to school later in life, had a 2 and a 3-year-old, and I had to work full time. And so, what advice would you give students that are trying to kind of find that balance, but yet have it all?
Right. That's and it's so true. Like that's, I think that's the other thing that's really challenging to people, especially as you get older, because I feel like people as they age, they kind of you settle into these rhythms of life. And I think that sometimes that is the scariest thing, is breaking yourself out of that rhythm. So it's like, I can't take on anything else, or I can't. And it's funny because when I first started and when the first time I got laid off, I was devastated. I'm gonna be honest with you. It took a long time. I had never been laid off, and I was there so long. Like that was the thing. Like that was the thing that I noticed. I was comfortable. I was like in this rhythm. I was so happy there. I love my coworkers, still do. I'm still in touch with them, but something jolts you out of that rhythm. Like I got jolted out of the rhythm without it wasn't my choice. It wasn't my choice to get jolted out of that rhythm, but I did. But I think what I learned from that is sometimes that's a good thing. You can't take every setback, what you might see as a setback, sometimes it might be just what you need, because that's what made me realize that people like as we age, that's what we do. We settle into rhythms, we take on a certain load, and then we just kind of coast, and we feel like this is, I couldn't possibly do anymore. So I think it's just, again, just being brave enough to say to yourself, you know what, try maybe just one class at a time. That's what I did. So you start part-time, 1, 2 classes, make it as easy as yourself. Maybe one of those little half classes, the accelerated one. So it's just a few weeks. You don't feel as committed, but just try. And I feel that if people, I feel like sometimes we're our own worst enemies, and sometimes we need life to give us a reason. And sometimes that's the whole thing. It's like you have a choice to sink into despair, or see like this is an opportunity, like it's really just having perspective and being like, okay, like my plate is clean. Like a whole part of my plate just got clean. So now I can fill it up, and I can choose how I want to fill it up.
No, that's great. I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that advice. You're right. Sometimes what might be presented as a loss might actually be an opportunity in disguise. So I completely agree with you. And again, thank you so much for sharing that. Armaya, I actually have a question for you. I really appreciate you sharing your story about working in various industries and having to relocate for academic and professional opportunities. Now, what advice would you give to students who are interested in being an entrepreneur or trying to find their way in digital media and communication, given just how fast that field is moving?
Thank you very much, Arlene, for the question. I think my first advice is really getting the experience, knowledge, right? Before I had my business, I worked with multiple companies, I think like three, four, fives. And, it was hard for me to tell myself that I want to be a business owner or I want to be a, businesswoman at that time. Um, Basically, I just like do it. Like Carolyn said, just like try it, just do it, try it, do it. I really wanted to work in a marketing agency at a time. Um, I feel like it's really fancy as a marketer if you work in a very big agency or consulting or something like that. But after I work several years with the multiple brands, and I think I had enough knowledge to have my own. So basically, if you want to be entrepreneur, there is no set of time that I wanted to be an entrepreneur on this day or the next years. I think based on my experience, it's all about the time, the right time. And if you want to do it, if you really want to be an entrepreneur, then just go for it. But you should have knowledge, enough knowledge to be an entrepreneur. It's not easy. For example, um, I started my company in April, but there are things that I'm still learning about contract. I just know that, okay, I should have an accountant. I just know that I need to have a lawyer for my contract because, you know, four of my clients haven't paid me for a couple of months. And then now what should I do? Do I need to go to court or do I need to just like give them et cetera, et cetera? So basically being an entrepreneur is about like how like are you really passionate about it? And because entrepreneur is not for everyone because uh it's risky, it's very scary. If you don't have a client, then you don't have money. So basically being an entrepreneur, you need to have a mindset, a positive mindset all the time that you are going to be successful. You should be motivate yourself like every single day because no one really help you at a time. You need to be able to take your own risk. You make your own decision. No one really make a decision for you. So I would say like um, really know what you want. I think get experience first from different people because if you work with multiple leaders, then you know what kind of leaders you want to be when you want to be entrepreneur. So I learned from my previous jobs. My boss was like this, my other boss was like this. So I wanted to be a good leader and then just take good things from my previous manager, my previous CEO's boss, and then really apply it in a real life and fill out what was missing at the time, right? And then the knowledge. So um, don't leave your job, don't leave your 9 to 5 before you really have the passion. So basically you need to fill all the knowledge first, save your money before you leave 9 to 5 because it's really scary. It's sometimes it could be failed. It can be failed, you know. But I think, I had that from my previous work and I applied in the entrepreneur. So, getting as much knowledge as you can, really focus on yourself, like believe in yourself that you can do it because no one can stop you from doing things that you like. uh, g- Network, right? So like if you want to be entrepreneur, then you have to be around entrepreneurs because if you want to be entrepreneur but you walk, you hang out with 9 to 5 people, it's not going to work because their mindset is different. Entrepreneur people are different because they are very brave. They have like a lot of resources, like for example, a grant. I didn't know about the grant before, but luckily I'm gonna get a grant from the city of Boston if I want to create a social media workshop for small business in Boston. So like I didn't have that knowledge before. So you have to again be curious and be brave and be humble to everyone. Go to the networking event and really know your purpose, why you are doing this. I think by the time entrepreneur cannot be learned, but it's earned. If you earn that, then if you want to take the risk, then you can be successful. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for answering that question. I appreciate it.
Thank
Sorry,
you,
Pat.
Arlene.
No, those are great questions and responses. And I hear, the continual pattern that we're hearing from both of you. And I certainly compare or connect to it. And Erling, what you were just mentioning is when life is already difficult and you have a dream or you have a desire, you have a passion, you just need to go forward, move forward and give it a try and build that network. So in thinking about building the network, and how do both of you, Carolyn and Armaya and Mary and Erling, how do you all kind of organize and keep up with people that you are adding and building into your network? Carolyn, you want to go first?
See, this for me, as Armaya just said, be like, and I've always been in a 9 to 5 setting. My life has been 9 to 5 since I started. It was right out of the gate. So I think networking actually is my biggest challenge, because like I was moving like as I started my career, got married, had a child, and you have a full plate, and you're just kind of chugging along with the 9 to 5 job and your responsibilities with your family and your friends and your kids' lives, because kids' lives are so they're that they take a lot of time. When you're like, and it's funny because I don't think our childhoods were like this, but like the modern childhood, like a child takes up a lot of a parent's time, so you end up not having a whole lot of time for yourself. And I feel like a lot of those networks you had were really related to your child's life. And then as your child grows and shifts and moves, like your network changes, and you don't really, like, you're friends with those parents, but you're not really friends with them because it's really like a kid's activity thing. And your kid might, like my son had such a hard time finding like a sport that he enjoyed and was good at. So he was all over the place. But so that was like my thing. I mean, when I landed at United Technologies, my husband, and then my husband and I are no longer together. I was just a few years into that, that we had separated. And, and life as a single woman, you just, you end up not, you know, like a lot of the times it's hard to break into, because people like are congregating couples, so it becomes, when you're older, it becomes a little more challenging, and then you don't really have time for that because you're also a single parent now. And for a woman, it's more difficult. Like, I don't want to, not that men don't have their challenges as well, but I feel like women, like I just feel like, obviously we are still in a male dominant society. I don't think that anybody would really debate that at this point after the last election, but it's definitely a man's world. And it's been, it was challenging coming up. So I didn't really have a lot of time, and I really didn't do a lot of networking, and I didn't really put a lot of effort into that. But I am, like, it's funny because in my classes, like, we talk about that, and that for me, that is the challenge. That has been the challenge, is that going through my career, I was very, I think a lot of women do this too. We are very task oriented. We're very, we want to, like, we overachieve in our professional life because we feel like we have to, just to be good enough. And at least I felt like that was like I would never say no. Like, I would never say no, like, because I feel like it said something about you if you did, like, almost like you couldn't do it. Like, so you were always like, so I was very task oriented. and not so much network oriented or relationship oriented, because I was so focused on excelling at all the tasks that were being, anything that was being thrown my way, I wanted to excel at it. So for me, that has been the challenge, and that continues to be my challenge, especially as you age again, again, it's that whole rhythms thing. You settle into these rhythms. And so for me, that's the challenge. And that that's one of the things that I'm trying to, like, I'm becoming better at. And I feel like that's one of my new skill sets that I'm trying to apply in life and learn in life.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Armaya,
Patty, to your
go ahead, Mary. No,
to
please.
the point about building a network, I think that's a fantastic concept, especially in this conversation about digital communications and media. I think building a network needs to be done not when you need it, because when that crisis comes, who are the friends and allies and advocates that you've surrounded yourself with? And both of you have these beautiful stories, and you too, Patty, about unexpected resources. So I've definitely had the experience of building the network before you need it, because when you're in that emergency situation and you need a connection or an interview or a reference, that you've already put those bricks in place. So I think that's one thing that is important to keep in mind. At this time, I mentor students in a way as far as advocating for them in the financial aid sphere. And I would be interested to hear if you have any suggestions as experts in digital communications about how to give difficult feedback in this alternate environment. Because sometimes words, when written in an email, can come across so much more harsh. And yet, how do you tell people hard facts or hard truths when you're looking out for them? So I'd be interested to hear you guys navigate that, because it's definitely a mentorship challenge I face on a regular basis, where culture times have changed, and sometimes what might seem appropriate to one generation is not necessarily appropriate to another. And how do you get that feedback across?
Armaya, I think this is right up your alley, because I know you have to have these conversations. Yeah. How do you deal with it?
So basically what I did for my team was, of course, I give them training, right? I have the standard of how the video should be, how the caption should be, how for example, how to even like cut the video when we are editing video. First, you need to, be, you need to show them an example. So leading by an example, right? If there is something that I don't like, when they do something, I just ask them question first, like, uh, why you're doing this, why you use this music, for example, for this video. Is there any reason why you choose this clip over this clip? And I will analyze the answer, and then I give them like, hey, listen, this restaurant has this type of vibes that this music will not allow. So we need to really change the music. And then they understand. So basically, I raise a question first: why they chose, why they did why they did what they did, and then give them an explanation why this is not acceptable. One time, as an example, there's a team where always made mistake after 3 times. For example, we always post Instagram story says that we are open from 11 a.m. to 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. right? And then the address is, let's say, 130 Haddington Avenue. One time, client was mad because the time was 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. like restaurant, like it was wrong. And then the client came to me, and then I give them a warning. And then the second mistake was as 130 Haddington Avenue, but my team said let's say 140 or 131 or something. So basically it was embarrassing for me. That client told me 3 times that it was wrong, and I just did like, listen to me, this is not an acceptable. If you are making a mistake, that we are all gonna get in trouble. So I'm using we instead of like me, because that's my company. So like I always use the word says that we, so that they will feel like they belong to the company, although my words are kind of like harsh, if that makes sense. So like sometimes like, you cannot do this anymore, because if you make this, and then I feel like, and then we all gonna go in trouble, we're gonna go get trouble. If they said that they don't want to work with me anymore, with Ayamra anymore, then you're gonna get affected, and everyone is gonna affect it, because when they stop the contract, then all of us is not gonna be able to get money. So I think that was the process when I give them a very harsh feedback. Not really harsh, but another example, I would say like, I like this, but it could be better. I like this, but I don't like this part, you know. But if it's like over and over again, I said, this is not this one, this is A, this is not A, this is B. So like straight to the point, so that they know that, okay, I'm sorry, I'm wrong, and I will not do it again.
Yeah, I think the outcomes.
I hope that, yeah, I hope that answer your question.
I think it's helpful how you
Thank you.
shared the outcome, and that's a really important thing. So, at this time, this is not available. You might try this route in terms of what Mary's looking at, and what you're looking at in leading a team is, here's what I'm looking at for a standard, and you're either under the standard, you're at the standard, or you're bringing in above and beyond the standard. Yeah, well, I know we're coming right at the time, Erlene. I don't want to shut you off or make it too short.
No, this is perfect. I mean, truly, we thank you all so much for taking the time. This discussion has been fascinating. Thank you so much for answering our questions, and many thanks to Patty for facilitating such an engaging conversation today. Armaya and Carolyn, thank you so much for taking the time today out of your busy schedules.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, especially being in a
Thank you.
different time zone. We appreciate you being here and for the guidance that you have given to students and faculty and staff. So if there is nothing further, we'll end this session, but we just really want to thank you again so much for supporting our Mentorship Matters in Digital Media and Communication. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Much.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.